In the dead of night, back in 1910, a sealed train car waited at a New Jersey station. On board were men who, combined, controlled roughly 1/6 of the entire world's wealth. They were on a secret mission, operating under aliases, their destination hidden from everyone, even their own families. Their goal? To design a machine that would control America's money for the next century. This isn't a spy thriller. This is the true story of how the Federal Reserve was born. To understand why this secret meeting had to happen, we need to go back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. America was a financial roller coaster. Every few years, a massive panic would sweep the nation. Banks would collapse, businesses would fail, and ordinary people would lose their life savings. Think of it like a series of economic heart attacks. For the banking titans of the era, names like JP Morgan and the Rockefeller interests, this volatility was a problem. While they could sometimes profit from the chaos, it also put their own immense fortunes at risk. They realized that to protect themselves, they needed a more stable system. They needed a central bank, but how could they create one that served their interests without alarming the public, who were deeply suspicious of concentrated banking power? That brings us to that foggy November night in 1910. A handful of the most powerful men in the country gathered for a clandestine journey to a private, exclusive retreat, Jekyll Island, off the coast of Georgia. The guest list was a who's who of American finance and politics. There was Senator Nelson Aldrich, a Republican powerhouse and father-in-law to John D. Rockefeller Jr. There was Paul Warburg, a partner at Kuhn, Loeb & Co., who had spent years studying European central banking systems. And there was Frank A. Vanderlip, the president of National City Bank of New York, one of the most powerful financial institutions in the world. To ensure absolute secrecy, they traveled under code names, pretending to be a group of duck hunters. They instructed their staff not to use their last names. For 10 days, these men were completely isolated, cut off from the world, huddled together to draft a plan for America's entire financial future. What they designed on that island was a masterpiece of political engineering. They outlined a plan for a central banking system. On the surface, it would look like a government institution, with a board appointed by the president. This would give it the appearance of public accountability. But the real genius and the real deception was in its structure. The proposed central bank would not be a single entity in Washington, D.C. Instead, it would be a system of regional reserve banks spread across the country. And who would own these regional banks? Not the government, not the American people. They would be owned by the private commercial banks in their respective districts. In other words, the bankers would own the bank that was supposed to regulate them. It was a brilliant scheme, a way to privatize profits from lending and managing the money supply, while socializing any risks or losses onto the public. The bankers were creating their own lender of last resort, funded by the public but controlled by them. With their secret plan drafted, the next challenge was selling it to the American people and to a Congress that was deeply skeptical of Wall Street. The Jekyll Island group knew their plan would be dead on arrival if its true origins were revealed. So they launched a sophisticated public relations and political campaign. The plan, initially called the Aldrich Plan, was presented not as a creation of powerful bankers, but as the result of a scientific study by a national commission. They framed the debate masterfully. It wasn't about whether bankers should control the money supply. It was about preventing future financial panics and protecting the savings of ordinary Americans. They argued that a lender of last resort was necessary to stabilize the economy and stop the cycle of booms and busts. After years of political maneuvering and a change in presidential administrations, the core ideas drafted in secret on Jekyll Island were passed into law as the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. The machine was built. So what is the legacy of this secret meeting? The Federal Reserve was born from what many call its original sin. It was created in secret by the powerful, for the powerful. This fundamental DNA, this core design, helps explain its actions in every major financial crisis since its inception. During the Great Depression, critics argue the Fed's policies made the crisis worse. In the 2008 financial crash, the Fed orchestrated massive bailouts for the very same types of financial institutions that designed it a century earlier. A classic case of socializing the risk while the profits had long been privatized. And in recent years, his policies have been linked to widening wealth inequality. The ultimate lesson of Jekyll Island is a stark one. The most powerful financial institution in the world was never primarily designed to serve the public. It was designed to serve the interests of the banks that own it, and understanding that secret history is the first step to understanding how money and power really work in our world today.